Change will be high on the agenda at the upcoming G7 summit this weekend in the United Kingdom. President Cyril Ramaphosa has been invited and is expected to raise issues of financial support for developing nations tackling the effects of climate change. The G7 summit, three main issues to be discussed are global public health and how to prevent another pandemic, economic recovery and global trade, as well as climate change. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson expects the G7 to agree to donate 1 billion COVID-19 vaccine doses to poorer countries during its summit and help inoculate the world by the end of next year. The United States has promised to donate 500 million doses with no strings attached. The G7 summit is the first in-person meeting of leaders of major developed economies for nearly 2 years and will focus on the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change. All right, well, leaders of the G7 countries have arrived then in Cornwall in the UK. The meeting is expected to discuss the impact of COVID-19, vaccine access, rebuilding of the global economy, climate change, trade and investment, and peace and security. For more, we're now joined by our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena. Very good afternoon to you, Sophie. Take us through today's program for today. We did see a short while ago, as we were showing our viewers, some of those leaders arriving there on the Cornwall beach, they're taking pictures and picture opportunities. But of course, the business of the day is set to start soon. Take us through that program, please.
Well, of course, all leaders have arrived and they did pose for photos for journalists to be able to get a sense of who is attending the meeting. And now they will be converging in a hall or in a venue where the Prime Minister of UK, Boris Johnson, will soon deliver the opening remarks and welcoming the guests. And later today you will see more leaders arriving, but the leaders will be arriving now will be those who have been invited: Australia, Korea, and also South Africa. India will be attending the meeting tomorrow virtually, and therefore you will see these three other leaders arriving later today. And tomorrow, of course, the big one, the arrival of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And today, later again, you will see the perhaps bilateral meeting of these leaders, country to country, trying to iron out issues so that tomorrow they have done enough lobbying in terms of what's on the agenda. For example, the issue of how you deal with the global economy. They will have to find one another in terms of how are they going to ensure that not only the G7 countries are able to address this, but also you take on board the developing countries, because if the developed countries set up a program to rebuild the economy and they exclude the developing countries, they will not achieve the goals and perhaps in terms of ensuring that the global economy is revived.
Yeah, we understand, of course, that climate change is quite high on the agenda, and I wonder, in terms of our own politics, how we fare in terms of issues of climate change. I wonder if we've been very vocal about issues on climate change and how much we'll be able to contribute to those discussions. But apart from that, parking that topic, it is, of course, quite obvious that even though there will be a lot of other topics on the agenda, coronavirus, COVID-19, vaccine rollout is the one that will really be the main topic at this time. What do you anticipate?
Well, as you are aware, President Ramaphosa, as the chair of the Committee on Climate Change at the AU level, did convene a meeting to get a mandate from African countries in terms of what he should present on behalf of South Africa, but generally the continent. He indicated before he left South Africa that he will be pushing that leaders must honor and expect the Paris Agreement and ensure that they implement the targets and the time frames of what they have committed themselves to, particularly on issues of reducing carbon emissions. But also indicating that you cannot compare the developed countries, these 7 industrialized countries, with the low-income countries or the developing nations when you talk about reducing these carbon emissions, because you can't implement the same plan. The implementation of such a plan is going to affect the economic growth and also the livelihood of these low-income countries. If you do away with coal, you have to do it in phases, because many of these countries are still reliant on coal, and you can't do it just overnight. These are the issues that I think the leaders will have to agree on, and that's where you'll find disagreement, because some believe countries such as South Africa cannot be classified as developing countries when you talk climate change, while South Africa is saying we are not part of the G7. We are still a developing country, and therefore we cannot have the same rules in terms of dealing with some of the climate change issues.
Let's talk to the second part of my question then, which was the issue of vaccines. Earlier on, we heard an announcement by the US president talking about COVID-19 vaccines that will be donated, and there was an issue about him saying that no strings attached. Generally, when we talk these issues, there are strings attached. But let's talk more to what the president of the US had to say about vaccines and what will be done for impoverished countries.
Yes, indeed, that pledge 500 million doses vaccine that will be dispatched to the entire world in different regions where there's a need. But the issue here is a call from Joe Biden that other leaders must do the same. We heard that the G7 is planning to make an announcement that they will pledge 1 billion vaccine doses globally by the end of 2020. Some people are saying it's too little, too late, and also you need more. We know that the European Union this morning issued a statement. They did welcome Joe Biden's announcement, and we expect the European Union, that has been championing support for COVID facility for the WHO, to also make an announcement. And you know that the accelerator, that is a platform for collecting money but also resources to deal with the issue of COVID-19, where President Ramaphosa is a co-chair, has also made an appeal to these countries to make more commitment in terms of dollars to support the COVID facility, because if you support COVID facility, the WHO will be able to distribute these PPE and vaccines to poorer countries. And Sub-Sahara, the African continent in particular, is mostly affected. And when you look at access to vaccines, you will realize that these 7 industrialized nations are going to meet their targets in terms of the herd immunity. But on the continent, we are way, way, way behind. We had yesterday the World Health Organization, the regional body, saying that only 9 countries are likely to meet the deadline in terms of ensuring that they achieve the herd immunity. But many other countries, I mean, we have 54 African countries, and therefore we can see when you look at the numbers that many countries are going to be left behind. And therefore, this summit also must come up with a solution in terms of what are they going to do to assist such regions who are still lagging behind. And we know that the normal motto that no one is safe until all of us, or all we are all safe. It goes in the same direction in terms of what the United States of America is saying, that If America is safe and other countries are not safe, there is no way America will be able to build better.
All right. Thanks very much, Sophie Mokoena, for us. Of course, talking to us about the G7 summit. She's our international news editor. Just a reminder of some of those issues, really, that will be touched on then in the next 3 days as the G7 leaders meet. Their global recovery, health, and, of course, no doubt, COVID-19 and the vaccines will be high on that agenda. Climate development and security. Those are the main issues that will be discussed in those 3 days. As these leaders do indeed come together. We're going to take a short break, bringing more news after this, and we keep our eye certainly on the UK.